My name is John Anderson, and I'm the chair of the board of directors, and I will be the moderator this evening. As always, we are deeply honored to gather today on the traditional and unceded lands of Treaty 8 territory, the ancestral lands of many diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Beaver, Cree, and Dene nations. We are especially grateful to work, learn, and grow in partnership with the communities of Duncan's First Nation, Horse Lake First Nation, and Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, whose stewardship of this land continues to inspire us. We acknowledge the rich history of this region, the deep connection Indigenous peoples have to this land, and the shared values of respect, collaboration, and care for future generations. As we move forward together, we commit to fostering relationships built on trust, understanding, and the mutual prosperity for all. On behalf of the Chamber, I would like to thank the candidates and everyone else online for participating this evening. Okay, this forum is designed to give candidates the opportunity to present their political platforms on issues relating to the federal government. As your moderator, it's my job to keep a close eye on the content of candidate presentations. Please be reminded the Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization, and we promote priorities that drive the success of our business community. Personal and inappropriate comments will not be permitted. We are here to give all candidates the opportunity to express their views on federal issues, and all presentations will receive a specified time. So with that, let me take a moment to familiarize everyone with the rules of order for this forum. They were communicated to participating candidates prior to this evening. And they are as follows. The forum was called to order promptly at 6 p.m. and we will adjourn at 7:30 p.m. Candidates will be introduced in alphabetical order. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to present their political platform. The format of that presentation is at the discretion of the candidate, and no candidate will be allowed more than their allotted time. The public was invited to submit questions directed to all candidates via an online form. During the question period, the moderator will read questions and address them to 2 candidates. Please note, each candidate will also have 1 wild card, which I will ask you for when the question is read. So you can use it to be an additional responder to the 2 candidates whose turn it is. All right, so next question, 2 candidates, everyone gets a wild card to add to 1 question. Please note that any comments deemed inappropriate, offensive, derogatory, or that seem to attack the integrity of a candidate will be ruled out of order. Answers to questions will be limited to 1 minute to maximize the number of questions that we can field this evening. Candidates will then finish with 2 minutes after the question period to summarize their platform. And the moderator will have final jurisdiction in all matters. Candidates, you're clear? You're good with that? Excellent. All right. Then let me start by welcoming the candidates who have joined us this evening. Did I assume that's yes. All right. So we have Mr. Donovan Ekstrom from the Rhino Party. Welcome. We have Mr. Elliot McDavid, who's running as an independent. We have Mr. Sean McLean, representing the People's Party of Canada. We have Mrs. Maureen McLeod, representing the Liberal Party. And we have Mr. Chris Workington from the Conservative Party of Canada. Welcome, everyone. All right, so I will now invite each candidate to take their 3 minutes to share their opening remarks, and we will go in the alphabetical order that I just read Begin with Mr. Ekstrom. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the Chamber of Commerce for so graciously hosting a bunch of ragamuffins looking to be the next Member of Parliament for Grande Prairie. For those of you who do not know, the Rhinoceros Party that I represent is modern democracy's first and longest lasting satirical political party. What that means is that over the course of this evening, I will make fun of your favorite political party. If at any time you feel upset about me making fun of your preferred party, I want you to stop, reflect, and ask yourself why. Why is it upsetting you? The fact is, polarization is at a fever pitch. Neighbors want to murder neighbors for who they vote for. To many of you, you can't even have extended family over for dinner lest it turn into a catastrophe akin to the Hindenburg. So who ultimately benefits from polarization? You obviously don't. Your friends and family don't. The only ones that do and peddle us going against each other are established political parties who know that fear and hate will drive those donations. So yes, I will make fun of how Pierre Poilievre is rocking a midlife crisis chic to get your vote. Yes, I will make fun of how Mark Carney is incapable of coming up with original ideas, stealing them like Mr. Bean did during his exam in Mr. Bean Takes an Exam, released in 1991. Yes, I'll poke fun at Maxime Bernier's beachfront big bungalow bonanza, yet an inability to field a full slate of candidates. And of course, I will make fun of Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, who I feel is frustrating me because every time I come up with something really funny, they seem to steal it. And it's driving me a little bit crazy. So I encourage you to chuckle. I encourage you to laugh. It's good to laugh. It's good to realize that all these parties suffer from the same ineptness, witlessness, irresponsibility, incongruity, etc., that the Rhino Party suffers from. At the end of this evening, I will actually lay out a policy plan if I were to somehow pull off the impossible and win. But first, you got to get through the same promises you've heard every election cycle. And I will poke fun. Just as the jester pokes fun at the king, so too does the rhino to the parliamentarian. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ekstrom. All right, now we'll move to Mr. McDavid.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to the Chambers of Commerce for having us on here at this panel so we can speak our mind, I guess. And I'm reaching out to everybody here, not just as a candidate, but someone who calls this region home, who understands its people, its industries, its challenges, and most of all, its strengths. And it's with deep respect and a genuine sense of responsibility that I announce my candidacy. It's kind of out of my ballpark, but I think it's doable. To serve as your next member of Parliament in Northern Alberta here, it's not just about politics. It's about it's about people. It's about making sure Grande Prairie has a strong, honest, and unwavering voice in Ottawa. A voice that listens, that leads, and fights for what matters to you, and listens to the people. Most of all, listens to the people. For too long, decisions that affect our livelihoods, our energy sector, our small businesses, our farmers, our healthcare and infrastructure has been made without fully understanding what life is really like here. And I want to change that. I mean, we got to lighten the red tape quite a bit in this country, for one thing, and use some common sense. Common sense, it seems to be in lack right now. And I'm running because I believe in hard work, fairness, and community. And I believe Grande Prairie deserves better and Alberta deserves better. Actually, the whole country deserves better. Not just promises, but results. I'll fight for cost of living, real support for job creation, common sense energy policy, and respect for all Albertans and all Canadians. I'll ensure our youth can build their futures right here at home, and that our seniors are cared for with the dignity that they've earned. And like I said, the people will be listened to, and I think we should do 2 or 3 town halls a year in this area to listen to the people's concerns. And anybody that feels unheard or left behind, I hear you, and I'm here to serve you. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. McDavid. Next, I'd like to hear from Mr. McLean, please.
There we go, audio. Thank you very much to the Chamber for putting this on and allowing us all the opportunity to be able to kind of speak our minds and be able to inform the public. My 3 minutes, what I'd like to try and do is the biggest confusion I think a lot of people have is what's the difference between the PPC and the Conservative? That honestly, there's big differences. And this is kind of a bit of my story. I mean, I've been Conservative most of my life. I voted for Harper all the time. I even voted for Scheer after that debacle. And it wasn't until last election when I started looking at what the Conservative Party of Canada was standing for that I had problems with it. And I was actually in email dialogues with Pierre Poilievre at the time, mentioning that it was his election to win at that point in time, and that I thought that if he had been the one to run, he probably would have won the last election, which would have circumvented us having another Liberal government. In my opinion, it seemed to me like he was playing politics within the party in order to be able to make sure that maybe Mr. O'Toole got his chance first. I didn't necessarily buy his reason for dropping out. Because obviously, as soon as he did drop out, O'Toole went in, and we ended up getting a lot of Liberal light kind of stuff, which, as a right-wing Conservative, I just could not support that party anymore. Dealing with things, O'Toole and the carbon tax and a bunch of other things, they just kept shifting. And what I'm finding more and more is a lot of hate and vitriol from some of the supporters, which seem to think that it is our responsibility as past Conservative voters to continue to support the Conservative Party of Canada, even though they are not any longer supporting our Conservative values, which is why I was directed to the PPC to take a look and see what they stood for. And they stand for the things that strong, true Conservative voters stand for. We look at what happened the last 3 terms with the Liberal government, where we've got ourselves to. A lot of people seem to think that after the leadership race between Maxime Bernier and Paul Scheer, that Maxime left because he was mad that he lost. And that wasn't the case at all. I've talked to the man. It was told to me that he actually went humble to Mr. Scheer after the fact and said, look, I got 49% of the vote. Why don't we work on some of our values too? Because I got half the party, but you won, absolutely. And with that, he was pretty much told, no, this is the direction we're going. We don't want your ideas. So anyway, looks like my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Okay, please note, we have now been joined by Jennifer Willebrun from the NDP party. Welcome. As you can see, we're in the opening remarks, and we're going to move to Mrs. McLeod for her opening 3 minutes, please.
I thank the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to explain how we will work with local and area businesses to ensure Grande Prairie continues to flourish. What you can expect from our Carney government is make permanent the doubling of the revenue protection for farmers under the Agri-Stability Program to $6 million per farm, in the case of significant revenue drops caused by, for example, the impact of tariffs. Build more domestic processing capacity with a new $200 million domestic food processing fund. As your MP, I would personally champion Grande Prairie as a new processing plant site. Increase the support for farmers and ranchers with an additional $30 million in agri-marketing program. Help farmers and ranchers to buy new farm equipment with a $30 million top up to the Agriculture Clean Technology Program. Double the farm guarantee loan limit to $1 million of the Canadian Agricultural Loans Act program and expand the terms. For our Indigenous business leaders of Treaty 8, double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program to $10 billion and support more Indigenous-led projects. Increase capacity funding for Indigenous communities. For our energy sector, connect critical mineral projects to supply chains via a new first and last mile fund. accelerate exploration as well as extraction prospecting activities, attract, expand, and de-risk investment with additional investments in and expansion of existing tax credits, fast-track projects which will be jointly identified with provinces and territories and Indigenous peoples, incentivize projects by keeping the federal government's current investment tax credit, established a major federal project office to move forward with one project, one review, issuing decisions for major projects within 2 years instead of 5, develop a trade and energy corridor, build out an east-west electricity grid, invest in Canada's conventional and clean energy potential. For our valued workers, a new upskilling and training benefit of up to $15,000 for workers in the middle of their careers, an apprenticeship grant for up to $8,000 for registered apprentices, and a new $20 million capital funding stream for colleges such as Northwestern Polytech to support new training spaces for apprenticeships. For our forestry and construction industries, create a strong Canadian market for softwood lumber by building homes and at an accelerated scale and pace.
Thank you, Mrs. McLeod. I appreciate that. All right, and now we'll move to Mrs. Villebrun. Your 3 minutes begins.
Thank you. I was here at the beginning. I was just in I guess the general public instead of the panelist version. So I did hear your welcome. And I wanted to thank everyone who's taken their time out of their busy evenings to join us tonight. For most of us who are in front of you today, this isn't our first time being here and presenting our options to you. And I think that that's something that I'd like to remind you of, is that we have looked at the policies put forward by the Liberals and by the Conservatives over the last number of years. And we're starting to see the impacts of some of those policies that were put in place when I started to run for office in this area. For example, one of the issues that keeps coming up is how are we going to manage our supply systems? And I remember in 2012, we stood before you and Mr. Workington at that time was arguing for dismantling the wheat board. And I was arguing that we needed to keep something like that. And I think that we're still arguing that same question. We need to have things that protect people in our community in order to make sure that our industries are achieving the most that they can. Like Ms. McLeod said, I am also avidly supportive of small business in this region. I want to see our farmers have all the resources that they can have in order to be as successful as they can, to reach out to new trade areas, to build new production facilities. But at the root of all that is that I see the people of our community are struggling. Every day when I'm in my school, I have kids that come to me who tell me they haven't eaten in a day or 2 days or sometimes even 3. And I don't think that's something that I, as a citizen of this area, can continue to live with and see. In our particular community, 1 out of 5 people in Grande Prairie have had to access the food bank over the last year. To me, that's an appalling situation. It's something that we need to take immediate action against. Something like 20%, I'm not sure if it's exactly 20 or right around there, of our community are in danger of ending up in homelessness because even though they are working, they cannot afford rent or homes in our community. And that is one of the things that the NDP has promised to take immediate action on in terms of getting new houses built, affordable arrangements, whether that is reduced affordable housing, rental restrictions, whatever it takes to make sure that people have a roof over their head. The other issue that people keep talking to me about when I go door to door is the fact that we do not have doctors. In a city the size of Grande Prairie, when we look at current medical models, what that tells us is that we should have roughly 90 to 126 doctors, but what we actually have is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50. The NDP has committed that by 2035, we will ensure that all Canadians have access to a medical provider in their community. And those are the goals that I'm working for. I am from this community. I see the things that are going on, and I am willing to work with you to make sure that those things are met. We have many interesting topics that I hope we can get into tonight, but it's certainly something that I look forward to.
All right, thank you. All right, and one more time, I invite Mr. Workington. Please give us your 3-minute opening.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here tonight. Thank you for hosting. It is a privilege for me to serve as the member of parliament I have for the last number of years. And it is my privilege to be here as the Conservative candidate, looking for your support yet again. Before any election, Michelle, my wife, and I sit down and we contemplate if or not I will run again. I say we rather than I, because it really is a team effort. And we talk about if or not it's important that we continue down this road. For me, it's a privilege to serve, and I love the job so much, but I know that it's a personal sacrifice for my wife and my children. And so these discussions are important to me. My family is important to me. When I reflect on the family that I've been blessed to be born into, I think back at the history of our family here in Canada. I think back over 100 years ago where my great-grandparents arrived to the Peace Country via rail. They were fleeing the Ukraine, where the communists were taking over and where they saw no opportunity for the generations that would follow. And so they landed here in the Peace Country. They had left a country where they told the stories of where the topsoil was 6 feet deep, where it could grow the most beautiful crops in the world. And they landed in a forest of poplars. When they dug down, they saw just inches of topsoil, and questionable topsoil at that. But they pressed forward. They believed that they could build a better future for themselves and for the generations that followed. And the generations that have followed have done better. Successively, generation after generation, life has become better. And one has built the foundation that the next has built off of. And I've been blessed to now be a great-grandchild that stands here and now wonders if my children will have the same opportunities that I had. And that's really why I'm running. As Michelle and I talked about it, we talked about the necessity to ensure that our children and all the children of the Peace Country and the grandchildren that we someday may have might be able to still call this home and enjoy the opportunities that we enjoyed. But as we look around, we know that there's been an uncontrolled increase in the cost of living. We've seen rents and housing costs, the mortgage costs, double over the last 10 years. We've seen grocery prices skyrocket. Just today, there was a new report indicating that we're seeing food inflation at a 50-year high. We see a limited opportunity because of the decisions of the Liberal government to fight against the industries that are so important to our community. And as we see the escalation of taxes and red tape, the opportunities seem even that much more difficult. So I'm running for the future generations.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. And thank you all for those opening remarks. Actually, I'm very pleased that we have the full slate of candidates tonight. So thank you all for your participation. So now we're going to move to the question and answer period. We'll let the audience know that when we created this forum and announced it, the Chamber of Commerce did extend an invitation to the public to submit questions prior to this evening, and we have received many, so thank you very much for that participation. We will endeavor to get to as many questions as our allotment of time allows. I will remind you, the candidates each have just 1 minute to respond. I will direct the question to 2 candidates, right? The candidates have been chosen in a way that is not correlated to questions, but rather enables everyone a chance to answer a question as early as possible. And then I remind you all, when I announce a question and the 2 respondents, I will then ask if anyone wishes to use their wild card, and they may be a 3rd respondent. You only get to do that from 1 question. And yeah, once we've heard all those answers, we will move to the next question. All right, shall we get going? All right, the first question this evening will be directed to Mr. Ekstrom and Mr. Workington. The question is, Canada has fallen behind in economic growth compared to peer nations? What specific policies will you implement to improve Canada's tax competitiveness, to reduce red tape and drive investment? Would anyone like to use their wild card to answer this question? All right, then I will invite Mr. Ekstrom. You have 1 minute to respond to that question.
Thank you. The economy is the #1 priority of the Rhinoceros Party, and as a strong man myself, we're going to change it. We're going to get interest rates to be measured in Canadian Tire money as a Buy Canadian way. We're also going to change the acronym GDP. Will now stand for Great Donut Pile. Thank you.
That's it. Okay, thank you very much. Just trying to coordinate the timer and making sure we can hear that. Thank you, Mr. Ekstrom. I will invite Mr. Workington to respond, please. Oh, I'm sorry, you're still muted.
I apologize. I was just saying the first thing we have to ensure is that we reduce red tape. The federal government over the last 10 years has piled on red tape in every industry here in the Peace Country. The most notable piece of red tape is the No New Pipelines Bill C-69. This has devastated the ability for energy companies to grow and expand and build pipelines here in Canada. It needs to be completely eliminated. We've made a commitment to doing that. The Liberals have made it their commitment that they'll retain that bill. We've also brought forward a number of different tax policies, including the provision that if companies are to sell assets here in Canada and reinvest that money here in Canada in expanding their business, that will be capital gains exempt. So if the reinvestment happens here in Canada, we'll reward that by ensuring that that's not taxed additionally.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Workington. I'll now move to a new question. This question will be directed to Mr. McLean and Mrs. McLeod. The question is, small and medium-sized businesses are struggling with rising costs due to inflation, supply chain disruptions, and interest rates. What measures will you take to stabilize costs and support business stability? Would anyone like to use their wild card on this? All right, Mr. McLean, please go ahead.
Mute button. Okay, sorry about that. Well, one of the issues that we find that our plan would be as the PPC is we'd like to set up downsizing of the government. I mean, obviously, that's one of the things that we can do to start. If we don't have to pay as much money in government fees, we don't have to tax as much. We'd like to eliminate the deficit. We'd like to reduce the inflation rate down to 0 with the Bank of Canada and make these issues, more front and center for the people to be able to kind of move forward and take their money back home with them. The idea is ultimately we've got to get we've got to get people to be able to start making money. We've got to lower the taxes. The taxes are killing us. The bottom line is.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's tough. Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mrs. McLeod, your turn.
Thank you. First of all, I think that Mark Carney has proven that he is capable of making changes as needed, and he's already shown that one of the big changes that he's made that'll help small business, everybody actually, is the getting rid of the carbon tax. And as a banker, he's very good at organizing things and looking at the big picture and seeing where things need to be changed and cut. So I'm counting on his leadership when we get into the Parliament again to come forward with some more good ideas for that kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McLeod. All right, we'll move to the next question. This question will be directed to Ms. Villebrun and Mr. Workington. The question is, many foreign investors cite Canada's slow and uncertain project approval process as a deterrent. How will you reform federal permitting and approval processes to accelerate responsible resource and infrastructure development? Once again, I ask, would anyone else like to use their wild card to answer this question? Mrs. McLeod, all right, that's fine. I will add you. We'll have 3 respondents to this.
Do you want me to start?
No, Mrs. Villebrun, please.
Great, thank you. I think that's really one of the most important questions that face us. And I think it's not always as easy as we look at when we just ask, how do we make permitting easier? Because there are things we have to do. We do have to have a fair consultation process with our Indigenous people. We do have to consider environmental impacts. And when we look at those things, they're not always straightforward answers, and sometimes they do take time. But I do think there are ways that we can make that process quicker. There are steps that we can take to facilitate faster approvals. And I'm a person who really believes if we're moving forward with a project, let's get on it, let's get done. And so that's my personal philosophy in life. And I see that as something that both I and the NDP would bring to putting projects through. You can look at our progress on getting a national dental program, and as part of that, we have pushed through an issue even without holding the power in the House, by making sure issues that were important to us moved forward.
Thank you, Mrs. Villebrun. Mr. Workington.
Well, thank you for the question. We have made a commitment that we will build the Canada First National Energy Corridor that will allow for pre-permitting of projects of national significance that will get our energy moving in all directions, frankly. What the Liberals have done by shutting down the pipeline construction over the last decade, they have made us completely dependent on the United States or largely dependent on the United States to export our products to market. I think Canadians would be surprised to find out that we still import into Canada oil from Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela, and other hostile regimes because we don't have a pipeline that goes to the east. I believe that a Canada First National Energy Corridor will not only get our product to export markets like Asia and Europe that are desperately wanting to get the product from Canada, it will also allow Canadians to use Canadian product. I also believe that it's absolutely essential that we get faster approvals. We have announced a plan to have it done in months rather than years.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I asked to be the wild card because I had already mentioned some of this, and I just wanted to reiterate it again, that we are planning to have a major federal project office, which will move forward with one project, one review, issuing decisions on major projects within 2 years instead of 5. I think that's a huge improvement, and I'm looking forward to how that'll go out. And also we're going to incentivize projects by continuing with tax credits. And as far as the Indigenous projects are concerned, we're also going to increase the capacity for funding for them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McLeod. All right, we'll move to the next question. This question will be directed to Mr. McDavid and Mrs. McLeod. The question is, federal debt is at record levels. Rising interest payments could lead to higher taxes or reduced services. What is your concrete plan to reduce the national debt while avoiding further tax burdens on businesses? Would anyone like to use their wild card? Mr. McLean? All right, I'll add you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Ekstrom, go ahead. No. McDavid, I'm sorry. Thank you. Do I have us confused? I may have confused us.
Did he tell me to go?
He was the wild card. Anyways, Mr. McDavid, this is your question to answer, yeah?
Well, to start it off, guys, I think we have far too many people in government, whether it's municipal, provincial, federal, sitting around not doing a whole bunch. I don't think not doing what they're supposed to be doing anyway while they're in office. And I think we need to get back to reality here. And Bryce, what was the question again? What was the question again, Guy? I completely lost that one.
Federal debt is at record levels and rising interest payments could lead to higher taxes.
Sorry about that, guys. And another thing too is the reason why our federal debt's so high is we have governments. Money's going places it shouldn't be going. There's a lot of fraud happening in the upper levels of this government, in all levels actually. We need to put a stop to that. We need to instill people in this country that have courage and strength and work together to lower the debt.
All right, and that's time. Thank you. Okay, Mrs. McLeod.
Yes. First of all, I know this is going to sound like an excuse, but nevertheless, our national debt is not as horrendous as a lot of other countries. Not that we don't have to deal with it, but our debt compared to, say, the United States, Japan, France, is within line. Now, that means that we're all in debt. But what we would do in each budget and going forward is make an effort to lower that debt as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next question.
Oh, wild card here.
Oh, sorry, yes, that's right. One more, sorry, Sean.
No, that's quite all right. You got a lot on your plate.
Oh, it's all good.
Anywho, this is something the PPC has identified since the beginning of our party. We understand that there's way too much money being spent on things like the CBC. Right off the bat, we would defund that, get $1 billion back. We would be looking at things like the foreign spending. And I know Mr. Poilievre had mentioned that he would limit wild spending, foreign. I can't remember exactly how we word it, but the problem I have with that is it doesn't necessarily give you a target of what he's going to do. Is Ukraine on that list of people that we're going to continue to give billions of dollars to? And as much as the plight of the Ukraine people are definitely front and foremost in a lot of people's minds, sending money has not been something that's been very conducive to Canada. We have veterans that were asking Trudeau years ago, why aren't you helping us? Yet we can give $50 billion out to the Ukraine. Things like this need to change. And yes, Mr. McDavid was correct. Fair enough. Thank you.
I know, I mean, it's not very long. Thank you.
No,
both.
it's all good. Thank
All right. Okay, now I'm going to try a new question. And this time, the two respondents are Mr. Ekstrom and Mr. McLean. The question is, businesses continue to face severe skilled labor shortages across multiple industries. How will your government reform immigration, credential recognition, and training policies to better align with workforce needs? Once again, I'll ask for a wild card. Not this time. Mr. Ekstrom, please go
I
ahead.
think Jennifer raised her hand for wild card. Did you not, Jennifer?
Oh, I missed it. It's a big screen. You got it. No problem. Go ahead, Mr. Ekstrom. Yep.
Thank you. Immigration is the #1 priority of the Rhinoceros Party. And as a strong man myself, we'll work on training a moose on the border to welcome every new Canadian and figure out their skills in both official languages. This moose will also offer new Canadians unsolicited relationship advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McLean.
Yeah, immigration's been a big issue. We've identified it elections ago. The issue really is that we need to stop just opening up the taps. We need immigration. I mean, PPC, a lot of people have the uninformed view that we're against it. We're not, but we do need specific people to come into Canada, and when they're done with their schooling or anything like that, not stick around afterwards. We need people that are going to actually fill the voids of the things that we are missing. I mean, we've got a doctor shortage here. Yes, let's bring in some doctors, healthcare workers. But what we don't need is mass immigration, inflating our housing prices to make it unaffordable for people to buy a house. These things the Liberals have been doing time and time again, and we are now suffering for it. We were identifying this issue, like say 2 elections ago, and now it's become a hot topic and people are actually interested in it because what they've been doing is not sustainable.
All right, thank you very much. And Ms. Villebrun, you're using your wild
Yeah,
card.
absolutely. When it comes to immigration, we continue to support a policy that encourages skilled workers to come to Canada, and also one that would streamline the process for people who are already skilled to become credentialed in Canada. But I think that's only part of the problem. We need to not only look at bringing in workers from elsewhere, but also to support our own people in order to make sure that they have those careers. One of our commitments is a path that would focus on providing tuition education for trades and essential careers to people who are living here in the communities, because they're the people who are already committed to living in the North, and they're an easy sell on wanting to stay here.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to take a moment just to thank all the candidates for being respectful of our process tonight. We're moving through the questions very nicely. Okay, the next question will be directed to Mr. McDavid and Mrs. Villebrun. The question is, businesses rely on efficient transportation and trade corridors to access domestic and global markets. What is your plan to invest in and improve trade infrastructure, including rail, highways, pipelines, and ports? Would anyone like to add their wild card answer to that question? Seeing none, I will invite Mr. McDavid, please.
As far as pipelines go, we like I said or alluded to earlier, we need to get rid of the red tape and start putting pipelines in this country and east to west. And I know it might be an issue sending some pipelines east because there's reasons for that, I guess. We need to look after our highways, and the highways right now are in horrible shape, and they need a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of frost and hot and cold temperatures this winter, and it's taking a beating on the roads, and we need to pay more attention to that. We need to spend less money other places and more money on places where it's needed. And one of those places where we need to spend less money is outside entities doing business in this country that take our resources to other countries and refine them. We need to refine our minerals and stuff here and create jobs.
All right, thank you, Mr. McDavid. Ms. Villebrun.
Well, I certainly know of some potholes that could be fixed pretty quickly around my area of the woods. And that is actually something that fits within the NDP's platform this year. One of our commitments is that we would move immediately on what we call shovel-ready projects, things that we know need to be done, infrastructure that's been put off being dealt with. And that's partly a way of forestalling some of the upset that's been happening recently with our trading partners to the south. but also it's a reality that Canadians need to be focused on providing for our own services, and that we need to support local industries in their effort to meet those needs that we have, instead of trying to go outside of these areas. So our proposal would be to utilize local services as much as possible, focus on expanding highways and rural roads, making sure that affordable public transit is a thing. In my mind, there's no reason we shouldn't have effective regular bus service in our region, and yet we struggle to maintain the basic communal services
That's fine.
because it's just too costly for private companies to run.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Villarun. Okay, moving to the next question. Directed to Mr. Ekstrom and Mr. Workington. The question is, the federal government has introduced increasing regulations on banking, energy, and agriculture that impact business viability. What specific regulations will you prioritize to cut or amend to improve business confidence? Would anyone like to use a wild card in this question? No? Go ahead, Mr. Ekstrom.
Thank you. This is going to require some innovation. And so technology and innovation is the #1 priority of the Rhinoceros Party. And as a strong man myself, we're going to utilize AI and upload Canadian consciousness into a giant supercomputer named Doug. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Workington.
Apologies. There is a significant amount of red tape. If I started to make a list of all of the things that I'd like to cut, it would take me all evening. But I can tell you that we've already talked about C-69. This is the No New Pipelines bill. It's been put forward by the Liberals, and it's done effectively exactly what the title would suggest that it would do, and that's disallow the approval of any new major infrastructure project in this country. The Liberals under Mark Carney have recommitted to keeping that in place. That's one of the most essential pieces of legislation that needs to be cut immediately. Obviously, small businesses see it every day, where the tax man is after them. CRA agents are crawling down their throat, and yet we have news that Mark Carney was able to move tens of billions of dollars to the Caribbean, to these offshore tax havens, where he was able to avoid paying over $5.3 billion. Can you imagine what that money could have been used for here in our communities? Well, CRA agents are crawling down the necks of our small business owners. Mark Carney is getting away scot-free. That's going to change.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Okay, next question. This question is for Mr. McDavid and Mrs. Villebrew. The question is, the recent amendments to the Competition Act targeting greenwashing add to a growing trend of federal policies prioritizing environmental regulation over economic growth. How will you ensure that economic competitiveness, job creation, and business investment are prioritized over policies that increase costs and regulatory burdens under the guise of environmental protection? Once again, I ask, would anyone like to use their wild card? All right. Go ahead, Mr. McDavid. Or Chris. Go ahead, Mr. McDavid.
Sorry, guys. Appreciate you waiting us a couple seconds there. Anyway, I'd like to say, guys, that the climate issue in this country and the is a fraud. I mean, we don't have a carbon problem. We do have a carbon problem. We need more. We are carbon based. You know, we're at 0.4 right now in carbon in this country, and at 0.2, plant life starts to die. And they want to go to net zero. Net zero, it means one thing and one thing only: death for everything. We need to eliminate that. We need to eliminate the windmills. We need to stop all this stuff, all this green agenda stuff that's polluting the plant and harming the plant far more than what God put on this earth, oil and gas. It all needs to go. Period. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. McDavid. Mrs. Willebroom.
Yes, I guess I'd maybe reply to that with that God also put sun and wind on the air, on the earth too, and they're valuable resources that we shouldn't look away from just because they have different impacts on the oil and gas industry. One of the things that we recognize is that there has been a number of industries who have used greenwashing, where they're putting out the idea that they are a green industry, even though they're not. And one of the NDP's fundamental beliefs in this area is that the people who are doing the polluting, they're the ones who should be paying the cost of it. So when we look at having to clean up abandoned well sites or things like that, I know that's a provincial issue, but those should be targeted at the people doing the pollution. And our party's position is that we would support going after those polluters as a primary goal.
Thank you. Mr. Workington, did you wish to use your wild card for this question?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on this.
Please go ahead.
There's no question that the Liberals have spent the last 10 years trying to effectively greenwash the entire country, claiming that we're doing everything, including raising the taxes on everyday Canadians in the name of saving the environment. Unfortunately, what that has meant is that we've seen an escalation of the cost of everything that everyone here in our communities especially need to consume, including energy to heat our homes, fuel to get ourselves to work, and food and shelter, frankly, all because of the increases in the carbon tax. The NDP and the Liberals have voted over 43 times in the last 4 years to increase and to keep the carbon tax. Now Mark Carney is saying that he's going to do away with the consumer carbon tax, but that he is going to implement what he's calling a shadow carbon tax, an increase on what he says industry. Well, what we have seen over the last number of years as they've experimented with the carbon tax is that everything that gets charged by the government inevitably gets paid by the consumer. So when Mark Carney talks about putting an industrial carbon tax on emitters, we know that the consumer at the end of the day is going to pay the full brunt of that.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. All right. The next question is directed to Mr. McLean and Mrs. McLeod. The question is, voter apathy is high, voter turnout is low. People do not care about turning out to vote in federal elections, and it can get significantly lower in provincial and municipal elections. Would any of the candidates be willing to introduce any measure to address this? Once again, there's a couple wild cards left. Not missing one this time. Okay, good. All right, Mr. McLean, please proceed.
Yeah, actually, this is a big thing. And in the last couple of campaigns, this one and the last, I was talking to people, and a lot of people are disenfranchised with the electoral system. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that they don't feel they have an impact or a voice. And that really does come from a lot of the corruption that we've seen in the Liberal government specifically, and in government in general. The issue is that Canadians seem to think that our politicians, once elected, are invulnerable to the law. There was a time where the media was strong and bipartisan, and it would basically report on these things. But so far, it seems like the media in a lot of cases have been kind of bought out or sold out, and the politicians are actually benefiting from it to the tune of millions of dollars. I actually have talked to my party about doing an anti-corruption agency similar to what Singapore is doing, to be able to kind of go after politicians with significant jail times and fines.
That's
to be able
fine.
to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mrs. McLeod.
Yes. Actually, in the policy discussions of the Liberal Party, we've been talking about lowering the age of voting. And that would get it into the high schools and into getting younger people interested earlier. And the other thing is that I think we have to have a stronger presence in social media. That's where people are. They aren't on the regular, well, some of us are on CBC radio and whatever, but a lot of the younger people and the people that get excited about things are on social media. So I think stronger presence on social media and lower the voting age.
All right, thank you for that, Mrs. McLeod. Okay. We're going to actually invite 3 candidates to answer these next questions because you're all doing very well and we're using our time very efficiently. So this next question will be directed to Mr. Ekstrom, Mrs. Villebrun, and Mr. Warkentin. The question is, with Canada's aging population, attracting and retaining talent is critical. How will your government ensure Canada remains an attractive destination for skilled workers and entrepreneurs? Mr. Ekstrom?
Thank you. Yes, it's the attracting. Sorry, Chris, your mic's on. So yes, when we look towards the ideas of the elders, that is certainly the #1 priority of the Rhinoceros Party. And as a strong man myself, I think that the thing is that we need to start getting rid of some of the scary things that are on the horizon. To quote the great Don Quixote, we need to destroy you've got to go after them. We got to go after those windmills. So thank you.
Mr. Ekstrom? Mrs. Villebrun?
Yeah, I think that with our aging population, we actually have a great opportunity to make Canada even more attractive to people who have the services that we want to provide, because we will have opportunities for them to work and to build as part of our community. But I think in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have affordable housing, that they're not coming here and ending up in more debt or having a struggle to meet basic ends as they live here. I feel that we need to give them the support that they need in order to provide for their families and to settle into Canada. And I think we also need to support care programs that focus on facilitating families, providing care for their own families within the systems that we have. Many people that I know want to have more of a role with their aging parents, and I think that there are lots of possibilities that we could look at to make that happen as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Warkentin?
Well, thank you. The way that we make Canada the most attractive place for people to come is by making Canada the best place to live in the world, making life affordable, making our tax system more fair to ensure that that people can keep a little bit more money in their own pocket. And that's why we're announcing, and we have committed to a 15% reduction in the lowest threshold of taxation to make sure that every single Canadian gets a tax cut. We're also bringing forward measures to ensure that we have a Blue Seal program so that when people arrive in this country, we can actually utilize the credentials that they received abroad. We have tens of thousands of doctors and nurses that currently reside in Canada that are not able to practice in Canada because we have a system that doesn't let their credentials be recognized quickly. That needs to change. We have a proposal which is called the Blue Seal program that will allow these individuals coming to Canada to have their credentials recognized as they're arriving. And so they're able to go directly into the workforce and utilize the skills that they're coming here to utilize. I also believe that, okay.
I know it goes fast.
Too short.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is for Mr. McDavid, Mr. McLean, and Mrs. McLeod. The question is, how will you ensure federal infrastructure spending is equitably distributed and targeted to support trade and economic growth? Mr. McDavid. Oh, you're still on mute.
Sorry, guys, again for the 3rd time. I would say we would build a team of people that have been vetted and the people trust, and somebody to overlook exactly where it's going and how it's going. And basically that's it. I mean, we need some strong people in this country. We need some people with some courage and strength and to really take the reins back in this country, because everything's run amok in the last few years, and we need to change that, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McDavid. Mr. McLean.
Well, what we really need to do is start treating each other as provinces equally. Equalization is one of the biggest things, especially in Alberta. And the PPC is the only one willing to basically make a change for that fairness. What really ends up happening is the federal government gets way too involved in provincial matters, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare. The PPC plan on basically relinquishing the GST for the provinces to be able to take that and implement it into their healthcare systems. These things are in the Constitution for the provinces to be able to take care of. The federal government needs to remove itself from it and allow the provinces to do what they need to do without getting interfered. And in doing so, we can create a more unified Canada where provinces like Quebec, who seem to underperform in order to get more equalization payments, are held more to task, so that provinces like Alberta can actually make our own money, keep our own money, and invest it in our own province. We need to take care of our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs.
Thank
McLeod,
you.
please.
Yes, thank you. Well, Mark Carney has already started this by encouraging and working with the provinces as a group. Now, I know Alberta has opted out in a few of these things, but that's beside the point. The Liberal Party itself is committed to getting all provinces to work together. And a couple of the things that we're planning on doing is the trade and energy corridor and the east-west electricity grid, where provinces will communicate and cooperate in these areas so that there's a feeling of trust between all of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McLeod. Okay. Next question, I will invite Mr. Ekstrom, Mr. McLean, and Mr. Workington to respond to, please. The question is, businesses have expressed concerns over the federal government's lack of meaningful consultation on policies that impact them. How will you ensure the business community has a stronger voice in federal decision-making? Mr. Ekstrom.
Yes, business is the clear number one priority of the Rhinoceros Party. And as a very strong man myself, I've actually brought back my promise from 2011 that we will be building a tin can telephone from the Center 2000 to Ottawa so that our voices can get directly sent to those Ottawayan bureaucrats to hear exactly our problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McLean.
Well, the strength of the PPC is actually in the people itself, and the community that we develop and the conversations that we have. Our party does not have an actual whip. Maxime Bernier and the leadership don't necessarily have driving forces. As long as we keep with our primary core values of respect and integrity and responsibility and accountability, we're pretty good. The big thing is keeping engaged with the public and finding out what they actually want. And that's where, like I say, people on the street have come to us, and that's how we've built our platform, is from the people of Canada telling us, you know, this is what we need for housing, this is what we need for immigration, this is what we need for DEI or gender identity. I mean, any number of these things can be found on our platform at Canadian People's Party of Canada.ca. Go to the platform. You will find that almost everything, as a conservative, if you are interested in it, you will find it within our platform. And I would challenge the CPC to present their platform as well. I have not seen one yet.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Okay, and also for this question, Mr. Workington, please.
Well, thank you very much. I've had the privilege of for years fighting red tape in Ottawa. It's been one of my passion projects, having served on the Red Tape Reduction Commission under the Harper government, and I look forward to continuing to slash the red tape once our government is able to take over once again. Unfortunately, the Liberals have reversed many of the policies that we had advanced during our time in office and recommendations from that panel, including a 2-for-1 requirement that any new red tape or regulation that a federal government bureaucrat wanted to advance, they'd have to get rid of 2 other regulations. I believe that there's far more regulation and unnecessary red tape, none of which or significant portions that don't have an impact on the quality of life or the health and safety of Canadians, that really is in many cases redundant or unnecessary. And I believe that the number one goal of any government must be to first reduce the red tape, and then secondly, ensure that when they do advance new rules or regulations, that they actually listen to business leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Worthington. Now, as I discipline and hold everyone to their time, I will admit we're managing time because a number of the answers have been quite short. And so I'm now going to move the following questions. I will invite any candidates who wish to respond may respond. All right? Okay, so this question, there's a lot of talk about pipelines and removing interprovincial barriers related to energy. This is great. How do you envision removing interprovincial barriers for other industry? I will just move down the list in alphabetical order. Mr. Ekstrom?
Thank you. Yes, national unity, I think, is clearly the number one priority for the Rhinoceros Party. And as a very strong man, we're going to restore this and get through these interprovincial barriers by duct taping Alberta and Ontario together and hoping for the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDavid, would you like to respond?
We're going to sit down with all the different premiers, and I mean, every province as it stands right now is sovereign. So I mean, as men and women of this country, strong men and women of this country, there's no reason why we can't sit down and talk and discuss this stuff like adults. It seems in Parliament now on Parliament Hill, it's a bit of a clown show there, and nothing gets done. They argue back and forth all day long, and I mean, it's time to get down to business in this country before we have no country left. The country's in peril right now, and it's time we hired some courageous people, province-wide, Canada-wide, to sit down and talk about all this. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Mr. McLean?
Yeah, like I'd mentioned earlier, the division that we've got in the provinces is actually, it's part and parcel of the have-nots, the haves, the wannabes, all this. Everybody wants to position themselves in their own way to become, the recipient of the benefits of a national Canada. However, not every province is willing to basically put up and be a true brother or sister with the other provinces. We need to have the conversations. We also need to basically carrot and stick. I mean, honestly, during Quebec's issues with ice storms and stuff, Alberta is the first one they come to when they need some oil and gas. And we're happy to help them. We're happy to help them because they're our fellow Canadians. But when BC holds off pipelines to the coast so that we can't get our product to market, and they have all these expectations and they want things a certain way, it's not fair. We've got to come down and we've got to work as a country. And in order to do that, we're going to need to take all of our provinces and start working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. McLeod.
Yes. One thing we will do, we will strongly recommend that through this, our new housing proposal, that we'll build so many new houses, that we shop Canadian, that we make sure that we're using the softwood lumber from our own provinces and make it easier for them to ship the product across Canada. The second thing is, and it's already started to happen, we're going to work more closely with Quebec to get them to soften their stance on no pipeline, because the reason why we didn't get that pipeline built across Canada was because Quebec turned it down. So those two things are important to us.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Villebrun.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of ways that we can look at this. Some of the ways that the NDP have considered are ensuring that we have both transportation communication networks to facilitate trade and mobility, especially in the north. Communication and cell phone access still remains a continual issue. We would focus on developing regional development programs to address disparities between the provinces, as well as create local procurement policies that focused on engaging with the provinces to ensure that we could work across border, as well as standardizing some of the issues such as employment, unemployment insurance, which vary across the provinces and make it difficult for different industries to move easily between the provincial borders when it comes to their workers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Workington.
Well, thank you. I think it's just important that I do correct that Ms. McLeod said that that the reason that the pipeline wasn't built from east to west was because from west to east, pardon me, was because the Quebec turned it down. That wasn't the case. It was actually the Liberals that stopped that pipeline from being built. Unfortunately, they refused to advance the permitting in a time effective way. What we do know is that there's significant things that can be shipped more easily across international borders than interprovincially here in Canada. As a matter of fact, we know that if we could unleash the trade that is being barred from being able to go between provinces, we'd have a stronger economy than even the impacts that are now being threatened by the U.S. We know that if we unleashed that option, it would significantly bolster the economy here in Canada. We do have a plan to do that. We know that the federal government is responsible for trade and commerce. We do believe in the provincial, the constitutional authorities, but we also believe that the federal government has an important role to play in this.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next question. And once again, I will offer this to all candidates. Plain and simple, what's your plan to address housing affordability, not just for buyers, but for renters too? Mr. Ekstrom.
Thank you. Yes, housing is the #1 priority of the Rhinoceros Party. And as a very strong man myself, we need to tap into our patriotism. What is more patriotic than igloos? I'll ensure every Canadian gets a home, taking unused parking lots into igloo villages, equipped with heated snow and universal ice furniture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McDavid. Sorry, Mr. McDavid, you were on mute.
Sorry, guys, for the fourth time. Not used to this, as you can see. We need to, I think, build some small communities for people that like college students, university students, people that are probably having a hard time finding rent. And university costs are so high and college costs are so high that there's, in this country, if we're trying to build strong young people, there should be no need to even charge them rent for that. With the resources we have in this country and the money that's in this country, if it goes to the right places and it's not getting sent offshore, we can do a lot for the elders and the homeless. And there should be no homeless in the streets, no vets in the streets. None of that stuff should be happening. Goes back again to strong men and women in positions of power to turn this country around. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. McDavid. Mr. McLean.
Well, one of the biggest problems with housing is the fact that with the immigration that we have, the majority of the people that do come here want to reside in the bigger centers like Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa. And that is where everything is compounded. I've always said, and this is me personally, that our setup for the way the funding is happening in Canada, where the taxes flow from the smaller centers into the bigger centers in general, and the smaller centers are the ones that usually suffer for it. I grew up in Dawson Creek. I live in Grande Prairie. We don't have a major sports team. We're struggling with doctors right now, dentists. All these things aren't getting to us because the funding doesn't get to us. The other thing is the professionals don't necessarily want to stay for the long term because their kids are going to go to university in Edmonton or Toronto. So what we need to do is we need to start developing our nation in other areas, developing our smaller towns, and making it attractive to newcomers to want to spend time in those locations.
Thank you for that, Mr. McLean. Ms. Villebroom.
See, this is essentially three different areas. The first one, as you mentioned, was the home ownership issue. And one of the policies that we put forward with respect to that is to help people move into first-time home ownership through low-interest mortgages backed through our current system of CMHC. In terms of people who are continuing to rent, we want to put in protections like a national rent control system that prevents excessive rent increases and protects tenants from sudden hikes, basically putting an end to some of the predatory rental practices that are existing. As well, we want to ensure that there is funding in place for nonprofit housing providers to help them acquire affordable rental properties and keep them in their hands. The other part is that we are committed to building houses that deal with people who are on the lower income spectrum of our economy and make sure that they do have access to houses that fit within their budget.
Thank you very much for that. And Mr. Workington.
Thank you very much for the question. There's no question that shortages of homes lead to escalating prices. What we've seen over the last 10 years is a doubling of rent costs as well as mortgage costs. Obviously, it's tied to interest rates, which the Liberals, through their printing of their unlimited printing of money, has seen high inflation driven up interest rates and impacting the ability for new home construction to go forward and for people to be able to afford those new homes. But there are things that the federal government can do as we try to alleviate the pressure and the cost from consumers. One is to reduce the federal tax on a new home purchase. We have made a commitment that any home purchase under $1.3 million will now be GST exempt. This will lead to more affordability for new homes that are being built. We also believe that the provincial government can play a part in this as well. In the provinces that do charge provincial taxes on new homes, we're asking them to match our commitment. And finally, we believe that there needs to be an unleashing of municipal permits. We're going to tie federal funding to those.
Thank you very much, Mr. Worthington. Okay, and my thanks to all the candidates. That brings us to the end of our question period. And we did great. We covered a great deal of ground. So I appreciate that. So we will now move to your closing statements. I will remind you, you will each have 2 minutes for a closing statement. And I will continue in the same order. Mr. Ekstrom, would you please start? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. The biggest question I've gotten asked since 2011 is what would happen if I win? And I'm now going to lay out exactly what I would do if I were to win. I'd work immediately towards an entire overhaul on our ethics, transparency, and lobbying legislation. The fact is the Lobbying Act and Federal Accountability Act have loopholes bigger than the combined hair plug budget of Poilievre and Carney. Listen, I only have 2 minutes, but for instance, our ethics and lobbying watchdogs are appointed by cabinet. They are nothing more than lapdogs. I would work towards these important positions being filled via an actual independent body that is not connected at all to the federal government. I would also work towards any lobbyist interaction with our elected officials needing to be registered. Currently, lobbyists that spend less than 20% of their paid time lobbying do not have to register. Backroom deals are dangerous towards our democracy, and it's important we keep ahead of this, particularly as shady clandestine deals will be signed in the coming days, weeks, and months after this election under the guise of patriotism. These are just two of the dozens of accountability loopholes in our legislation, and the established political parties have no motivation or want to change. And I will work my ass off to ensure these loopholes are closed. As well, I would work towards limiting political party donations to a flat $100. Current legislation allows over $3,000 to be donated. But by lowering the limit to $100, we're keeping big money out of politics. Currently, less than 1% of Canadians donate, and then we're shocked when glad-handing ass-kissers make their way to the top. Average Canadians, I feel, can bring positive change. Canada is facing a crisis, but not in the way you think. Sycophantic, corrupt backroom deals are afoot. By keeping ahead of it, we can have a stronger democracy that we trust and is accountable to you, the average Canadian. Thank you. I will now go back to being a clown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ekstrom. All right, Mr. McDavid, you have 2 minutes.
Just want to say, guys, that in the end, I'll be available to all the people of Grande Prairie at any given time. And I'm actually running as an independent with the full backing of the United Party of Canada. We got the nomination in a day late. And I think in the end, guys, we all bleed red at the end of the day. And we truly got to come together as Canadians. Doesn't matter what race, creed, sex we are. What what we think's right and what we think's wrong. I mean, that's and one thing, guys, government should lead by example, be transparent, accountable, responsive, and I'm committed to honesty, strength, and courage, community-based leadership that ensures public funds are put in the right place. Red tape, if it's not needed, is gone. There's stacks and stacks and stacks of red tape in this country. We got a political venue in this country that is not working. The three main parties haven't worked. That's the definition of insanity. And we need to go back to the grassroots, guys, and turn this around before it's too late, before there's nothing left for the next generation, the children of this country, which is near and dear to my heart. And thanks, everybody. And then another thing, we don't need any 2 or 3 letter organizations such as the UN, WEF, WHO, telling us what to do. I'm sure we can manage our own country ourselves, and we should not have to import anything from anywhere. We have everything here to do it. Talk about job creation in this country. Build everything ourselves. Get back to making stuff. And thanks, guys, and I appreciate being with all you guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDavid. Mr. McLean, it's your turn for closing remarks.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak. It's one of those things that our party doesn't really seem to get that much of a platform with. The Leadership Debate Commission, with their ruling of with their 4% instead of utilizing the 5% of the last election. I believe that was unfair. 5% of the Canadians wanted to hear what Maxime Bernier had to say in these debates, but things are kind of designed, it seems, to kind of keep our light under the bushel, which, I mean, social media is pretty much our main go-to at these days. So opportunities like this really mean a lot. We are the one party, the one true conservative party that actually does not shift its values. Our values are the same as they were the day we were founded. We have not shifted left. We are not trying to win over liberal voters. And in doing so, have an expectation that our right conservative people must follow us into that void. So if people are really considering voting for conservatives, take a look at the PPC platform and find out if your values actually match what ours match, or if they match what the Conservative Party of Canada matches. We know the Liberals don't really match what you're looking for. They've overspent, they've been corrupt, they have not served Canada well, and unfortunately the CPC have not done an effective job as an official opposition in not being able to win over the last 3 elections in spite of all that corruption. So as much as I do enjoy and I appreciate the people of the Conservative Party, their values are not the same as ours. So when people are talking about vote splitting, it's just not true, because you got to have 2 right-wing parties in order to split the right vote. And the Conservative Party of Canada is not doing that. And that's why I left, and that's why 840,000 voted for the PPC in the last election. And I'm trusting that we're going to see an increase in that as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. McLeod. Mrs. Villebrun, go ahead.
You missed me.
Right, I did too. Oh, very good. It must
How
be
could you
getting late.
miss me?
Oh, no. Thank you for catching me on that. Mrs. McLeod, yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. To reiterate, a Carney government will invigorate our local economy by providing a wide spectrum of assistance to the major drivers of economic growth here in Grande Prairie, including, but not limited to, more financial help for farmers, a new federal project office to shorten the approval time from 2 years to 5 for major projects, financial assistance for retraining and apprenticeships, greater financial support for the Indigenous projects, an expanding Canadian market for softwood lumber, and as evidenced by Carney's immediate cancellation of the carbon tax last month, an astute and pragmatic approach to the ever-changing needs of Canadians. Grande Prairie needs an MP who has the ear of Prime Minister Carney. I'm a typical Albertan, just one generation off the farm, raised in a rural Alberta hamlet, which grew into the city of Cold Lake, where my father was first mayor in the 50s. His parents had homesteaded in southeastern Alberta. My mom's parents had worked on several central Alberta farms before getting their own small farmstead. I also have ties to our petroleum industry. My late husband worked on the West Coast Transmission Pipeline in the 70s. My younger daughter, who worked for TransCanada Pipelines, was one of the first victims of the 2015 layoffs. Her husband runs the computer-based SCADA program for TACA North. My own background is in teaching, corporate management, and volunteer leadership. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you for that, Mrs. McLeod. Okay, Mrs. Villebrun.
I don't think that when we are faced with these forums that we really get a great chance to share all of the positions that we have. For us to sum up our policies and our platforms in a minute or even a couple minutes, really it's almost impossible to do. So the first thing I'd like to do is to invite you to check out my Facebook page. Tonight and tomorrow morning, we will be posting answers in full to all of the questions, even those that I didn't have a chance to answer tonight. So if you have any lingering questions, that's a great place to look and find out what other things that we stand for. The second thing is that I think that we've heard this from a couple of other people here as well tonight. In many ways, we're all saying the same thing. I didn't hear anyone respond to any of these issues with saying our party doesn't care about that. All of us care about it, and that makes it really hard for voters to know who to vote for, because we all want to see lower taxes. We want to see people have affordable housing, and we want to make sure that people are living their best lives in our region. And it's a really tough challenge to know which of the parties can offer you that. The one thing I can say is that both the Liberals and the Conservatives have had many years in power to show what they can do with that. It might be time to try something new. And the reason that I've joined with the NDP is because they are a party that believes that collectively we are stronger than we are separate. They are a party that was formed through the strength of workers. They're a party that was formed around the fundamental beliefs that shaped our society. And those are beliefs that I believe form the entirety of what Canada is. They're the reasons that we are proud to be Canadians. We respect others. We treat each other with kindness and decency. And those are beliefs and values that I want to see continued in the future. And we have to have a strong economy to do that. And we have to support small businesses, and we have to have affordable housing. But our party has maintained those values since our inception, and we will continue to do so.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Mrs. Villebrun. Mr. Workington.
Well, thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this forum on. It's an important part of the democratic process, and I certainly appreciate your efforts to make sure that Peace Country voices are heard in this effort. I do want to welcome the other candidates to the Peace Country. I know many of you are not from the riding, and so I want to welcome you and thank you for being part of this democratic process, as well as all of the candidates for engaging in this effort. Tonight, I reiterate that I am running to protect the future of the future generations. Over the last 10 years, we've witnessed the Liberals, now with the help of the NDP over the last number of years, really devastate the opportunities that we here in the Peace Country have enjoyed. What we've seen is the skyrocketing debt of the government now impacting Canadians in negative ways, including the escalating interest rates. We're seeing costs skyrocket, the cost of utilities, the cost of groceries, the cost of homes, the cost of utilities, all skyrocketing during this period of time because of government's decisions to increase taxes and regulation to the point where it's making it more and more difficult for average Canadians to afford the essentials. We're seeing Canadians taxed at a higher level. It was interesting to hear from the other parties that they were supportive of lower taxes, and yet what we've witnessed over the last 4 years, the NDP and the Liberals continue to support one another in raising taxes on Canadians. And of course, we've seen the escalation of crime within our communities and across the country with the catch and release policies of the Liberal NDPs, as well as their soft on crime approach, which has devastated many of the communities. We believe that we can turn these things around. We believe that we can do this for future generations. It is my hope that that Canadians from coast to coast will understand the necessity of making the change. And I believe that the Conservatives are the best to bring forward that change on April 28th. Vote for change, vote Conservative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Workington. And thank you once again to all the candidates who participated in this forum. The Chamber respects the amount of personal commitment it takes for you to put your name forward, and we're pleased to see a variety of candidates putting their name forward in our constituency. I also want to thank all the people who tuned in and those who contributed questions. Respectful dialogue and forums like these are critical to a healthy democracy. For our fellow members of the business community, I encourage you to engage with your Chamber of Commerce. This is an example of how we are a strong voice at the local, provincial, and federal levels. I will also echo, please remember, get out and vote on April 28th. Have a good night. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, for being our host tonight.
You're most welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, guys. Take care. God bless.
Bye now.